In fact, there's an 80% increase in fires just over the last year alone. And this comes, of course, after the hottest July our planet has ever seen. I want you to take a look at these pictures showing the smoke from space. These are images from high above, covering huge parts of South America. Now, this isn't an act of God. It's farmers and ranchers intentionally destroying the land for more development. Veganism basin is, of course, known as the lungs of the world.
Black holes living in the side of your face, razor wire spinning around you, around you, around you, around you. Blistering sky, blistering sky, blistering sky. Bullets on the beauty of the blistering sky. Bullets on the beauty and I don't know why. Bullets on the beauty of the blistering sky. Bullets on the beauty and I don't know why. Personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility.
As you may know, the Amazon rainforest is currently burning at an unprecedented rate, and the public is in an uproar. Unsurprisingly, the vegans of the world are pissed because the media coverage is totally misleading. Headlines like "The Amazon is burning" and "Record wildfires in the Amazon" are leaving out the fact that these fires are intentional and are largely due to cattle farming, so ranchers clear-cutting the rainforest to make room for grazing and growing feed crops. In an article from The Hill, which I'll link below, according to the US Department of Agriculture, Brazil remains the world's #1 beef exporter, accounting for nearly 20% of global exports and still growing. As of 2018, Brazilian beef exports reached a record of 1.6 million tons. Some reports suggest as much as 80% of Amazon rainforest destruction is related to cattle ranching. This is a very crucial piece of information that is being swept under the rug by many news outlets. So naturally, those privy to this information are going to share it, and it was this post on Instagram that prompted me to make this video. Using the eco-genocidal settler colonialist disaster going on in the Amazon to further the case for a self-absorbed lifestyle like first world veganism is not radical nor helpful, but it is racist. Indigenous people have harmoniously stewarded the land for centuries, raising livestock with minimal ecological impact. The problem is not meat, it is settler capitalism. You can't expect to answer the ecological problem unless we follow the lead of indigenous revolutionaries, fight back against fascists and their bourgeois puppet masters, and liberate the world from capitalism. I agree with the last part, but the first part of this just grossly misrepresents what veganism is. Sure, some vegans may be ignorant to other environmental and social justice issues, but to say that veganism is a self-absorbed lifestyle and that promoting it is racist is pretty absurd. If you want to critique someone who is vegan and thinks that we can solve this climate crisis by just going vegan, that's totally fair and you should say something. But you may win the argument against capitalism, but you're never going to win the argument against veganism. There is no rational defense for you as a relatively privileged person to continue eating animal products. What this post fails to understand is that meat consumption in many areas of the world has gone way up with the rise of colonialism and capitalism. Most indigenous diets, with few exceptions like the Inuit, were comprised mostly of plants. It was westernization that brought heart disease and diabetes to regions of the world like Asia, for example, that had virtually no incidence of these diseases prior. And rates of these diseases are positively correlated with animal product consumption. Settler capitalism and Brazil's corrupt government certainly play a role, but considering that up to 90% of Amazon destruction is linked to beef production, the problem here is the global demand for meat. At the very bottom, in fine print, it says, "Soybeans and palm oil, which drive agribusiness and contribute to deforestation, are bad for the environment too, dumbass." Just so you know, the soy is primarily being grown to feed cows, dumbass. What's funny is I know for a fact that the person who shared this post on their Instagram story is not boycotting palm oil either. I'm in the middle of reading This Changes Everything, Climate versus Capitalism by Naomi Klein. In it, she talks about how the problem runs deeper than capitalism. The underlying ideology that is destroying this planet is extractivism. Extractivism is the idea that we can take and not replenish. That man can theoretically conquer nature. This mindset is even present in many socialist and communist countries. The difference, though, is that you could have a democratic socialist system that rejects extractivism, but capitalism relies on infinite growth. So yes, capitalism is inherently unsustainable, and we need a political revolution to solve the climate crisis. But the corporations that are destroying the planet are doing so because they are fulfilling a demand. It seems a bit disingenuous to me to critique capitalism so heavily, but continue to throw money at capitalists when it's not necessary. I'm not perfect. I still buy things that are wrapped in plastic and occasionally treat myself to vegan ice cream, neither of which are necessary. But I try my best to limit my consumption in general, and what I'm advocating for is for everyone to do their best. And people just don't realize how easy it is to be vegan once you learn the ropes. Under our current capitalist system, it is a lot easier to be vegan than it is to be zero waste. I can tell you that. This tweet sums it up perfectly. Out of the corporations that are causing the climate catastrophe, many have done so by shaping consumer preferences. Making individual choices might not be enough, but if you don't think your patterns of consumption would have to change under socialism, you are the fool. If we are to stop corporations from reigning, we will thus limit our options on the market. As an environmentalist and somewhat of a minimalist, I'm okay with this. We can't expect to have everything we want whenever we want it. If you are unwilling to do something as simple as swapping a beef burger with a veggie burger, I mean, you have to recognize that this is a selfish decision. You are putting fleeting pleasure and personal convenience above the suffering of other sentient beings and the ecology of our planet. This is exactly what you loathe about greedy corporations. They value short-term profit over people and the environment. If you happen to be born into wealth, what makes you think that you would behave differently than other elites? If you can't make small sacrifices as a working class or middle class citizen, what makes you think that you would be willing to make large sacrifices as a wealthy business owner? How can we demand that the rich pay their fair share and change their values when we are unwilling to modify our consumer habits and simply align our actions with our supposed values? If you truly value sustainability, you should be willing to stop eating animal products, since animal agriculture is so incredibly inefficient and damaging to our environment.
I follow a lot of jiu-jitsu guys just because, I'm like kind of a jiu-jitsu groupie or whatever, and obviously a lot of them are Brazilian. And I've been seeing this post going around lately that some of these guys have been posting about the Amazon and the destruction of the rainforest, and like, sign this petition so they don't destroy, like, get the fuck out of here. You want me to sign a petition so they stop cutting down the rainforest? Get the fuck out of here with your petition. Do you know why they're cutting it down? Do you know what they're putting there? Have you been there? Like, I don't understand. Like, how are you not making this connection? They're cutting that shit down so that you can fucking have the hamburger on your plate. If you want to fucking stop that shit from being destroyed, stop going to the fucking Brazilian restaurants and eating 15 pounds of meat off a fucking stick. What the fuck? Like, sign this petition? What's that gonna do? You can sign all the petitions you want. It's not gonna have the effect that like going plant-based is gonna have. I'm spelling it out for you. If you don't want the planet destroyed, stop eating fucking hamburgers.
Yo, how when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me no eat no fish, no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them say that I'm a vegan, man. But when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them, say me no eat no fish, nah, no meat.